Let's talk about the rule of 72. I've created this spreadsheet to help describe how fast money doubles when you leave it alone. The rule of 72 applies to a single investment with no additional contributions. The rule of 72 shows how time and compound interest work by themselves. The rule itself is very simple. You take 72 and you divide it by the percentage annual return, and it gives you a rough estimate of how many years it will take for your money to double. In this example, I start with an investment of $10,000. The annual return I use in this example is 10%, and I generally use 10% because over time, the S&P 500 has grown and it averages around 10% per year. Last year in 2025, it was up close to 17%. Over the last 10 years, it's 14.5%. Therefore, using 10% is generally accepted. For this example, we are invested for 65 years, and the rule of 72, well, it'll double. My investments will double in 7.2 years because 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. So in the first year, let's look at this. The portfolio value is $10,000. After year one, it's $11,000. 10% times $10,000 is $1,000. Therefore, you add that onto your capital. You have, at the end of 1 year, $11,000. At the end of 2 years, because you're making interest on top of interest, you now have $12,100. But here's the beauty. After 7 years, you have close to $20,000. That is 2x your initial investment. Another 7 years later, you're at 4x. After another 7 years, 8x, and now you're doubling, which is why the graph here shows very slow growth at the beginning. But the beauty of compounding is that once you start getting further along, this is where things get exponential. So let's change the numbers a little bit. Let's say we're invested for 40 years at 10%. Well, after 40 years, you're at $450,000. That is one initial investment of $10,000. It will go 32 times, close to 64 times your initial investment, growing annually at 10%. Now imagine if you were to add $100 a month or $50 a month or $200 a month every month during those years. That's the other calculator I've got here, and that's another video that I'll make a little bit later on. I hope that explains the rule of 72, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments.